Welcome, Leo, to your energy alert, deep dive special forecast for the ascendant, the sun, or the moon. From the 28th of June to the 30th, there's a huge amount of planetary activity. Some of it is highly energized, and some of it can be incredibly draining. How do we navigate this? On the screen is the event chart of the full moon from a Leo perspective. That's at the heart of this event. I'm going to unpack this for you, and by the end of the forecast, you'll have a clearer picture of how to work your way through this in terms of your vitality, finances, relationships, or work. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. Thank you for joining me. It's a real pleasure being with you. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so now to help it to continue to thrive. Please also click or tap the bell notification symbol. So the sun is your ruler. So let's start with the sun. The sun is in the nurturing, protective, emotionally intuitive sign of Cancer. And it's in that part of the year until it arrives in your sign on the 22nd of July, where it can give you a nudge to just reflect, take time out, maybe even heal. But on the opposite side of the heavens, the full moon is in the practical Capricorn, and that's much more to do with those everyday duties, obligations, the details. And of course, they compete. The sun wants one thing, the moon another. But T-square and the pair of them is Neptune. And this is the potential drainer because it's at the apex of the energy that the full moon inevitably creates, which could see you needing to realign in some ways. For example, if you're a bit too much of a giver, to be perhaps a little bit more protective, the Cancerian energy of your inner needs. But Neptune can make us very idealistic. In the ninth house, it could see you wanting to escape some of these life demands, which might not be incredibly realistic, even if it would be totally understandable. Because Cancer is very much about emotional security and that protectiveness, whereas the moon in Capricorn very much about uh, being responsible and containing our emotions. Whereas that more idealistic energy of Neptune can, in the T square with these two players, end up leaving us feeling confused. And that's the thing to be conscious of, because if that confusion is greater than your plan to take action, that's when you could end up feeling absolutely drained. Because the high energy comes from Mars having moved into the friendliest part of your chart in a conjunction with Uranus. That combination alone is very, very exciting, but it can make us a little bit impulsive. But as Jupiter makes his way into your zodiac sign on Tuesday for the first time since 2015, his link back particularly to Mars is one of astrology's finest. Now, they have been collaborating recently, but what you get is the air, the oxygen of Gemini feeding the fire of Jupiter moving into your zodiac sign. So that's really, really exciting. So if you have got a clear plan of what you want to go forwards with, you don't have any doubts, you don't feel pulled around by different obligations and responsibilities, the moon, you have got the inner vitality in terms of your emotional energy, the sun, because on the same day as the full moon, Mercury goes into a retrograde. And that can add, because Mercury doesn't really thrive in water signs, and all of the retrogrades this year are in water signs. We've had one in Pisces, that whole 10-week season. Obviously, the retrograde itself can be 21, 22, 23 days, but the whole process of the pre and post retrograde shadows is just under 10 weeks. So we've got that process in play, and it may be that there's some subtle anxieties or concerns that are creeping in, or you just feel a little bit less energized than you think you should be when you're watching the videos about Mars conjunct Uranus. Again, as ever, we need to look at the entire event in order to understand all the different competing energies. Also, Chiron's right at the top of your chart now. So you have got a lot of demands professionally. That could be something else that is having an impact on your vitality. So how do we work our way through this? Well, I think it's important to recognize the potential for overwhelm. So, in other words, overwhelm can happen by trying to attend to all these different cardinal demands, because cardinal signs are about action and authority. And clearly, you can't do all three at once, because if you do, Sun square Neptune, very physically draining, but brilliant for being more intuitive. But Neptune in the ninth house for you can amplify any anxieties. Neptune squaring the moon could make us so sensitive that actually we're picking up all this different, uh, the different vibes from other people. And if they're not in a great place, we so call that up too. So the important thing for you in particular is to try not to oscillate between those three different energies. Understand the responsibilities and obligations you do have to do. Pace yourself. Also get as much physical rest as you can, but at the same time be very realistic about what you want to escape from, or perhaps some of the ways you wish life was, because unfortunately life is complex these days. But if you can just really lean into the friendship part of your scope and the fact that you're just coming into an amazing new beginning, which will accelerate once the sun moves into your sign on the 22nd, and it's going to get stronger in the second half of this year, with obviously the South Node's moving into your sign on the 26th, but what we do have is that solar eclipse on the 12th of August, as well as Mercury emerging from the triangle in Cancer and going into your sign. So you've got a lot to look forward to in the second half of this year. So if you feel you're stalled, you feel that you're not quite getting the traction that you would really like, just take a breath. It's fine. Do what you have to, but do it to the minimum if you possibly can. I'm going to unpack all these different energies for you now in terms of your vitality work, relationships, and finances. But just to say, I slashed the price of my personal horoscope reports. It's now 3 for the price of 1. The one you pay for is the life roadmap, helps us to understand our life patterns better. Free 12 months transit. And also your draconic soul karmic analysis, which helps us to understand a deeper and more a more complex part of astrology, but in a way which can be so illuminating. Please see below for more. If you've yet to watch your July monthly forecast or your Jupiter into Leo deep dive videos, please click on the eye on the screen, which will take you through to them. If you'd like to work with me one-to-one, please see my testimonials below. And if you've yet to sign up for your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, please do that below and get your early day celestial pit stop. So to summarize, as far as your energy is concerned, I think your emotional energy can feel very sensitive. And that means that despite the fact that Mars and Uranus are in such a dynamic conjunction, which could attract you to different and fresh and interesting types of people, just be aware of how you can soak up energy, even around people you like. So be very protective. That's very Cancerian. As far as the Capricorn and Moon energies, do what you have to do, but the minimum. If you are wanting to do something that's more escapist, make sure it works for those other two areas and try to be as realistic as possible. As far as your romantic situation is concerned, Pluto continues on that seventh house. If you're single, the chance to meet someone new over the next 13 months through some kind of new friendship group or interest is incredibly high. You have every right to be very optimistic. If you're in a relationship at the moment where the balance between who does and gives what on the domestic front is a bit out of alignment, I think you need to find your voice on that. If you're in a relationship that's going really well, a great thing you could do is perhaps just share those demands, but then head off and get some time away. As far as your professional situation, with Chiron at the top of your chart, if you work in an environment which is a bit toxic, I'm sorry to use that word, but if we work with people we like, that old saying we shouldn't mix business with pleasure is actually doesn't hold water, because if we like people, we're more relaxed and we're probably more productive. But if you are working with people where there isn't a great atmosphere or there is a lot of office politics, I think it could affect you very deeply at the moment. But what you can do about this on this event is use the conjunction between Mars and Uranus to actually think about, even if you don't take action through this low energy next 2 weeks, to think about what you could initiate for your longer term once you really start to pick up your vitality as the month goes on. And that can be in a completely fresh and different environment, which is much healthier for you. As far as finances are concerned, the big takeout really is that Mars is in a T-square with the nodal axis. So Mars and Uranus together can be very impulsive. And these guys over the last 15, 18 months have been asking you to try and get a sort of more intuitive understanding of how to use long-term money and not be too caught up in perfectionism in terms of needing to spend money in your everyday budget. So you could again feel a bit impulsive about money, but if you are wanting to think long term, I think that's probably the big takeout from this particular event. It's been a real pleasure being with you, Leo. All the best, and look forward to seeing you again.